Nothing like a smooth transition into the midday. Be sure to tune to The Shift Monday to Friday at 12:30 p.m. with Joinae Gibson on Glory 93.9 FM. The freshest wave of glory to hit the Bahamas.
FM, and it's 12:30, so you know exactly what you are tuned in, and of course always locked and loaded on The Shift with yours truly. I am so glad to be in your company on this beautiful day. You're locked and loaded and ready for The Shift, and I want to start by saying thank you, Glory FM. Whether you're maybe driving or scrolling car, or maybe watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, rewatching this broadcast, I want to say thank you for tuning in. And I'm your host, Joinae Gibson. You're locked and loaded on The Shift. Now, I have this thought, and I want to share this with you. It is this: confirmation is what God uses to strengthen our confidence in what he has already spoken. Now, I was thinking about this for a while, because usually when we talk about, it's usually highlighted in a negative connotation. And when I say that, I mean, we talk about the wicked and perverse generation that always seeks for a sign, etc. But I started to think about this from a different aspect, and how God uses confirmation to strengthen our confidence in that which he has spoken to us or over us. Sometimes God will speak once, but he confirms it through other people, not because he is unsure, not because he is, hiding, because we are human, and he knows, listen, if I don't show up for her, she is not going to be confident to walk. And I even think about this when Moses, and when they ask you who sent you, them, I am that I sent you. And that was not only a confirmation for Moses, confirmation for the people would go to as well. See, when God that thing in your spirit or gives you that word, when spirit bears witness that there's no way that that sign would show up, especially, let's say, word, and you say, okay, you're going to give me peace, and then the on Glory FM saying peace. Maybe that one random phone or what seems to be a phone call, someone talking about peace, even this peace, and they just felt to share it with you. To say information is uses to strengthen our confidence, what has already from in Isaiah 44 and 26, and this affirms the and you've been given, God is going to confirm it every step of the way. If it's going to be a song, it can be an open door, it can be a closed door. Something happened to me just this day, and I said, okay, God, this is a confirmation. Something that I thought was random, something that I thought was unrelated, somehow worked its way into being God's way of confirming. He did not rebuke Gideon. He said, okay, I'll reassure you. And not only that, if you get weary, take someone with you so that they can strengthen you along the way. God will allow someone to understand that which he has downloaded, that which he has placed on the inside of you, to understand what's going on with you, and to be there as a confirmation for what he is doing in your life. And I want to share this one more point as we go into today's topic. Confirmation doesn't, quote unquote, create faith, but it strengthens trust. When God confirms his word to us, sometimes, like I mentioned, your confirmation can show up in what seems unrelated. It can show up in what seems like a random conversation. It can show up in a song, in a preached word. You can go to church on that Sunday and bishop or pastor or maybe even a guest speaker says the exact thing that you were thinking about, says the exact thing that God was dealing with you with. And, this happens more often than not, but it's up to us to be spiritually aware of the signs that God wants to use to confirm his word to us. So on the surface, it looks random. It may not even feel like it makes sense, right? But when God confirms it, suddenly it will make sense. God says today, confirmation is not a lack of faith. It is you building trust through relationship. In the same way when you and your friend set a date and listen, my friend is pretty reliable, but just to be sure, let me confirm we are still on. Let me confirm the time hasn't changed. Let me confirm. And while we may have to do that with man, God does it for us so that we can trust him all the more. So that when we hear his voice, we can trust what we heard. So that when we get that nudge, that feeling. Listen, this happened to me a few days ago. The Lord told me something and I hesitated. I'll be honest with you. I was like, Jesus, not saying that. Not saying that. That's hard. And I wrote it down and I had intentions on saying it, and there was someone that was speaking before me, and the exact same thing that I heard is what they said. And God says, because I understand your hesitation, because I understand maybe your fear or your anxiety concerning saying this thing when it seems so unconventional, when it seems so, random, I'm going to use something, I'm going to use someone, even if it's just one word, to confirm what I have spoken to you. And I know that was a mouthful, but shifters, let's lock in. Whether you are cruising in your car, listening to Glory FM, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, worldwide listener, welcome to the shift. Make sure that you like and share this live broadcast, right? And then, of course, we're locked in every weekday. That is Monday through Friday, 12:30, right here on Glory FM for your daily, when I say daily inspiration and conversation. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, you can follow myself and Glory FM on all social media platforms so you never miss a beat. I'm just going to plug this in right here for the faithful shifters. And for those who may be new here, my name is Joinae Gibson, and I have an album that's coming February 2nd, 2026, entitled Ruach, and I want you to get it. It will be available on all digital platforms, and of course, I'm going to speak about it on one of these shows, but I just have to let you know in advance. Please download your girl album. Tell me what you think about it, and I pray that it blesses you in some way. I have released 2 singles from this album. That is Name of the Lord and Burn Holy Ghost. Now, Burn Holy Ghost is split in 2, so the back part being fire. But those songs really have impacted and blessed people in ways that I could not have even imagined or ever, think about. But I'm grateful to God and thankful and humble, to be honest with you, for what he will do through music. I told someone the other day, I say, listen, y'all don't even really understand how powerful music really is. You play the right song, you play the right sound, and that can shift any atmosphere, that can shift someone's mood, that can encourage someone without you even physically being there. Music goes into the places and spaces that our arms and our feet can't reach. So please, if you need that uplifting, if you need that strength, if you need that, push to get to your second win, I want you, February 2nd, all digital platforms, Ruach by Joinae Gibson. I had to add it in there. Of course, shifters, it's an interactive show, so I need you. Type in the comment section, put a shifters, so I know you are locked in with me. Of course, the call and text lines, they're open in the caption, on your screen, and in the comment section for today. The call line today is 242-827-2543, and the text line, I don't know why I felt like saying that. The text line, I should come up with a jingle for the call and text line. Anyway, text line 242-817-25. Yeah, that's the right number. Yeah, 817-2544. I don't know how many numbers I was thinking about just now. Of course, jump in the comment section. Let me know you're here. Hey, to all of the faithful shifters. I see you locked and loaded. And of course, I have to pause every day. Every weekday we meet here. I have to pause and say thank you to the shifters community. Man, you guys are so encouraging, and you are so uplifting in your comments, in your calls, in the messages that I get before and after the show. Sometimes you're not always able to comment, but you tell me about the things we talk about on the shift. And listen, man, I'm so grateful to you. You and I are on this journey together, just by inspiration, just by conversation, just by some music that will uplift your spirit. And I can't thank you enough. I'm grateful for your unwavering, undying support. And so if you are new to the Shifters community, welcome. You've just found your favorite place, your new favorite place to be every weekday at 12:30. So let's go on this journey together. Now, today we are standing on business. Now, we started this is a series. I want you to know. We started this series when we started the shift for this year, 2026, right? And we started off standing on business, and we talked about, unsubscribing and, all that good stuff. Today, we're not going into unsubscribing, but we're standing on business and admitting I have outgrown this place. Or you can say, I have outgrown this. Could you type that in the comment section? Now, this is not for everyone, but there is a feeling that's extremely hard to explain until you experience it. The moment you realize something that once fit, something that once made sense, something that once was palatable, it just doesn't work anymore. The analogy or the metaphor that says a big fish, small pond, that you have outgrown the place where you are. And, I even feel and sense someone saying, I'm too big for where I am. You're too grown for this. You've outgrown this place. And it can be a relationship that you tried to keep alive out of loyalty. It can be a job that you prayed for and, was excited about, but it now feels restrictive. It can be a space or an apartment, a routine, a version of yourself that no longer applies to this level or this version or this season in your life. It's like, and my girlies know, it's like putting on clothes that you used to love, but now either it's out of style or too small. It's too tight. Technically, nothing is really wrong. Nothing is wrong with the item. Nothing is wrong with the garment, but everything feels uncomfortable. You keep adjusting. You keep stretching. You keep trying to shrink. How we suck our belly in? You trying to shrink yourself. And I use belly as an example, but think of how you shrink yourself, hoping that you would fit in again, and you just don't. Outgrowing something doesn't mean, or always mean, that it was something bad. It just means that you changed. In the same way, when you have your child, you have an infant, they love milk. Some mothers breastfeed. Some give formula. And then as they begin to grow, milk can no longer sustain them. You need to add some cereal to that milk. And eventually, that is not enough. Then you try the soft foods. Then you have certain purees and you introduce their stomach to more solid food. In the same way, when you begin to grow, there are some things that once fed you that would have sufficed or would have satisfied your appetite, but you have now grown and matured in a way where you need a little bit more. I feel that this is a different topic because many outgrow places and spaces, but they don't know how to outgrow a place without losing themselves. We don't know how to do that. Okay, so visualize a version of yourself, right? Two versions. The one that is on that level, and then the one that has outgrown the same level. And what we do is that we try to completely shift who we are just for that older version of ourselves, for that version to live. I'm trying to explain it in a way where it becomes visual to you. We don't know how to say something isn't working for me anymore without losing ourselves. And I feel that the challenge with losing ourselves is that we're caught between the two. I'm not really who I used to be, but I'm not really who I'm supposed to be. The hardest part of outgrowing, it is really admitting, listen, I've outgrown this. It's one of the hardest part because you don't want to sound prideful. You don't want to sound like, you're quote unquote better than or speaking down on someone. But this becomes extremely difficult when the people around you expect you to stay the same or expect you to stay on their level. Anonymous text, I see you. They say things like, well, you get rich and switch. You change. You think you're better. As a matter of fact, you need to remember, that's the line, you need to remember where you come from. And, they support it with scripture, and they say things like, well, the humble child tastes the grace, And it can become difficult because there is an internal war. There's an internal tug. And we're going to get into that in a few, but I want to define what it means to really outgrow something. So if you're just tuned into today's show, today we are standing on business, and we've added a piece onto that saying, I have outgrown this place. Feel free to type it in the comment section. Let me know. I have outgrown this. To outgrow means to surpass the capacity. Mine is a preach. To outgrow, and I'm going to start over. To outgrow means to surpass the capacity. It means to surpass the limits or function of a space, relationship, mindset, or environment that once served you. I'm going to say it again because I feel like somebody in the back missed that. I'm talking to you, yes, you. To outgrow, because you feel it. To outgrow means to surpass the capacity, the limits, or function of a space, relationship, mindset, or environment that once served you. Outgrowing isn't rejection, and we talked about this before, right? Outgrowing isn't rejection, it's recognition. It's the fact that I understand, or you understand, now I have just shifted. What good is it to watch the show, The Shift, every weekday, 12:30, and not grow, and not recognize that there is a shift? It's really recognizing this no longer challenges me. This no longer makes sense. It no longer aligns with who I'm becoming. In the same way, an infant will not wear a onesie at 5 years old. We can't still have you in stage 1 Pampers. We can't still be giving you a pacifier. So if a child, and I'm using this analogy, but if a child grows and no longer can fit in its old clothing, can no longer be sustained by milk only, what about you? Why are we using or believe, why do we believe that the thing that sustained us last year can be the thing that sustains us for this year and the years to come? I have a friend that says every year God gives her a word, and I've spoken about this before, right? Every year God gives her a word, and let's say one year the word was accountability, then the next year was sacrifice, then the next year was let go or forgiveness, right? And each year it required a different version of herself. So if I'm in a new year and the word for this year is sacrifice, but I'm still on access or forgiveness, what happened last year, I'll get stuck in the same way. We regurgitate these words. All right, I'll leave it alone. Okay. It's outgrowing isn't rejection. It's recognizing this no longer challenges me. I'm a big kid now. You got to be a big kid, right? This no longer aligns with or makes sense with who I'm becoming. If this requires me to shrink to stay, what once stretched you is now restricting you. I didn't change on you. I grew. And sometimes that may be the hard conversation that you need to have with some people. Outgrowing isn't disloyalty, and that's where we go left. Outgrowing isn't disloyalty. It's honesty. And I want you to hear me good, if you have to shrink to fit, you've already outgrown it. If you have to dumb down, say less, do less, put the bare minimum in, you've already outgrown it. Growth doesn't seek permission just happens. Standing on business sometimes looks like not only unsubscribing, not only just, saying I'm not going to fill my inbox with these things anymore, but sometimes it looks like saying this chapter of my life is over. This won't work. Choosing growth over what is familiar or what is comfortable. Watch this. Standing on business. And see, I know, they always get been a little quiet on me, Standing on business means that I'm accepting the tension of the transition. I'm accepting that uncomfortable feeling. I'm accepting the awkward stares. I'm accepting the jeers. I'm accepting the little side eye and the attitude. I'm accepting the tension of transition, because if I stay here, I'm going to die. If I go, I might, but let me just take my chances with the tension of transition. See, we don't know how to really alchemize. We don't know how to really master oneself in a way that you can become a better version of yourself without abandoning yourself. See, I am accepting. I have resolved to accept. I have reconciled within the tension. I'm gonna have to sit with it. And maybe that's you today. And I think that that's one of the main reasons why persons don't like to move or get stuck, because of the tension. The tension will make you feel like everything that you feel inside is wrong. The people around you giving you those weird vibes, their energy a little off, that's the tension of transition. And I find myself really, there's a movie on Netflix which tells the story of Moses. And I was just so intrigued. I watched it over the holiday, and I start to really, Moses, the character, it resonated with me in such a way, because he had to accept the tension of his transition. Listen, everyone may not understand. In fact, here's the thing. In fact, him not even understanding the transition. There is someone that's listening today where you're trying to navigate that transition. And maybe for you, it's not people, it's not the place and the space, but you're having difficulty reconciling the tension that you feel within. I remember having a conversation with someone very recently, and we were just talking about shift, and we're talking about growth, and we're talking about all of these things. And they said, listen, if you just shifted and you still feel like that's not enough, chances are you were thinking too small when you shifted. And I never looked at it that way, because we always think, a shift is a shift. And they said to me, if you've transitioned to another place, and very quickly that place becomes another place where you've outgrown, chances are you were ever thinking too small. Standing on business When you do this, it means you're honoring what God is doing in you, even if it makes you uncomfortable. It isn't about arrogance. It isn't about pride. It isn't about being, the ninth wonder. But it's about accepting the challenge to come up higher. I'm reminded of the scripture, my God. It says, come up higher, and I will show you the things to come. I'll show you great and mighty things. I'm calling you. I'm summoning you higher. I'm stretching your mind. I'm stretching your spirit. And, when we talk about standing on business 2026, this is no time for you to hesitate. This is no time for you to drag your feet. This is no time for you to run scared or be a punk or be a wimp. No, this is the time for you to stand 10 toes down and say, listen, I've outgrown this place, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a friendship, whether it be a person, whether it be an environment, whether it be your own mindset. You have to make up in your mind, listen, come hell or high water, I'm going to shift. I'm going to move. I'm going to move past this place, because this place, if I stay here, I'm going to be consumed. All right. One of the hardest things, and I know I'm not getting a few comments in, but I want you to really sit with this, right? One of the hardest things about outgrowing something is the reconciling. You have to reconcile how you feel. You have to reconcile what your reality still looks like. You feel bigger, you feel more clear, you feel more aware, but your environment, your reality hasn't caught up yet. So because there is a lapse in time, right? You start feeling, or a gap in time, you start feeling frustrated. You start feeling frustrated because you know that feeling that you get when I know something is not right, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is exactly. Or you start feeling that guilt of, oh, I'm leaving my sister behind, I'm leaving my brother behind, I'm leaving this one behind, I'm leaving that one behind, I'm leaving this friend behind, I'm leaving this, and this frustration and this guilt brings confusion. It brings self-doubt, and you start to question yourself instead of the space. I know I talking, y'all. I know it. You start to feel that inner war. And you battle with that frustration. You battle with that guilt. Am I doing too much? Should I take it down a notch? Maybe if I, this is it. Maybe if I do it at a different time, I won't feel as much tension. It's always going to be tension because it is a transition. You start to question yourself instead of the space. I was talking to my friend about this, and we started to really discuss that inner knowing, that inner feeling, that inner conviction. It is where I have no evidence of what's on the other side. Oh, Jesus. I have no facts. I have no proof of what's on the other side. I just have a conviction. I have a knowing. I have this feeling to take a risk on myself. And in fact, it's not really me taking a risk on myself. I'm just believing God. I'm moving by faith. When Gideon was going up against the Midianites, he said, well, Jesus, God, this is my interpretation, of course, because this is Judges. Jesus wasn't around yet. But, how can I do this? If you're going to give me victory I'm going to do this. And this is what faith looks like in action. He didn't just say, God, send the rain so that I can know that this is you. He said, I'm going to take an action. And when I make this move, if I see this, then I know you're with me. If I do this and this doesn't happen, then I know I need to go back to the drawing board. Sometimes our non-action is what is hindering our growth. If you take that first step, if you stand on business all 2026, maybe that's your phrase for this year. I know it's the phrase for the shift. Standing on business means I mean what I mean when I say what I say. That's it and that's all. But he said, I'm going to take that step forward. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to run the risk of maybe being wrong. Maybe it won't work out, but maybe it will. So you may be contemplating, well, listen, I've had this corporate job for the past 10 years, but I know I need to start my business. I know I need more time. I know I want to focus on my family. But there's no evidence. You look around and people will say things like, you crazy. Why would you leave shore for unshore? Now, this is not for everyone. But I'm talking to the one with that inner knowing, that inner conviction. When you stand on business and you say things like, I've outgrown this place, there is an external pressure that makes it hard to leave. Am I being ungrateful? What if I'm wrong? What if this is all that it's going to be? You start to experience even peer pressure. People reminding you of who you used to be and, reminding you of where you came from and why you shouldn't. Everyone, and I talked about this before, everyone loves the come up until you actually up. They love a good struggle story just as long as you're always struggling. They love a good underdog story as long as you stay the underdog. They love to be the one to pull you up until it's a weird dynamic where, people will accommodate you, I want to say for lack of a better term, while you're low. But the moment you start to get on your feet, the moment you start to catch yourself, they tell you things like you're doing too much. They tell you things like you're reaching too high. This is too much. And you start to feel, and this is the external pressure that you're feeling. You start to feel boxed in by their expectations. So that's where the thought, am I being ungrateful? This person helped me. And it causes you to reach back or look back for something that's only going to pull you down. For most persons, this pressure, that mental pressure, that peer pressure, emotional pressure, it can become overwhelming. You feel stuck in a place that you've outgrown. You feel unseen. You feel unheard, or you feel misunderstood, and it can weigh down on your mental health. That frustration of knowing that you are meant for more, you are built for more, but feeling trapped, it becomes tormenting. That's why persons become so overwhelmed. Feeling overwhelmed, and I want to say this, but feeling overwhelmed does not mean that you're weak. It does not mean that you're weak. It means that you're human. You need that support. You're not looking for silence. If you start to feel any of these things that I've been describing or just pointing out, reach out to someone. If your thoughts feel too heavy or unsafe, reach out to someone you trust and know that you don't have to go through that process of growth alone. When you start to feel that mental pressure, that peer pressure, that emotional pressure, that is the time for acceleration. Like I mentioned, if you shifted and now that new place feels too small, time for acceleration. Acceleration, you all know I got definition. Acceleration is the increase in speed at which growth, clarity, and change occur once alignment is activated. I'm going to read that again. Acceleration is the increase in speed at which growth, clarity, and change occur once alignment has been activated. In other words, the moment you get on the right path, accelerate it. In other words, you don't just grow, you grow quickly. You know, and this is something that I always think about, how God, he tests us and he allows certain things to happen. And then there'll be a season where, and this is not for everyone again, there'll be a season where everything you on beat, you getting it. And then there's a season where, oh boy, I gotta take this test again. Oh boy, I didn't do too well with that. But when acceleration comes, see, acceleration won't happen until you aligned. So if you see things are slow, it means that somewhere, even if you're just off a little, somewhere needs some realignment. Old spaces start to feel uncomfortable almost overnight. You're thinking in your mind, okay, how I could do this, how I could change this. What you used to tolerate becomes an annoyance. Acceleration, watch this, it doesn't necessarily only mean speed, but it means momentum. You don't just take off, go to 90 miles per hour, and then slow back down to 0. But it's a continuous growth. It's a continuous momentum. Standing on business, and y'all know, standing on business becomes necessary when acceleration starts. Because if you don't stand on business and you're being accelerated, anything, anyone, any little wind can throw you off. And because you're going at such high speeds, y'all, man, I don't have to break that down. Because you're going at high speeds, it's more detrimental to you and to the people around you. Standing on business becomes necessary when acceleration starts. And I'm going to tell you why. Because accelerated seasons, accelerated times don't allow room for hesitation. You don't have time to hesitate. When God says move, move. When God says call, call. When God says show up, show up. You can't move at yesterday's pace with tomorrow's responsibility. You cannot. You cannot carry what no longer fits when God is increasing the speed. Imagine speeding with a whole bunch of baggage. And I'm not talking physical. Standing on business in acceleration simply means making decisions faster. I'm just going to park right there. We delay decisions. You know why? And I talked about it earlier. Because of that transition, that tension in the transition. Because you don't want to offend nobody. You want peace, even if it costs you growth. I tell you one thing. Ain't nobody losing that peace for you. Nobody's stopping that growth for you. All right. Standing on business in acceleration means make those decisions faster. You wait 2, 5, 6 weeks easy. One decision. Standing on business in acceleration means setting firmer boundaries. Stand on it. Stand on it. You can't want to cut people off and then be like, oh, Jesus, I don't have no friends. Stand on it. Standing on business in acceleration means, listen, I have a list, y'all. Means letting go without the long explanation. I had a quote in a show that talks about the moment you start to explain, it's like you sowing seeds of doubt or something like that. Something alluded to that fact. But letting go without long explanations. Trusting discernment over delay. Sometimes these delay work out for our good, you know. But anyway. Acceleration will demand your obedience. So you can't make those decisions without obeying. You can't set firmer boundaries without obeying. You can't let go without long explanations or long detail or however you want to put it without obeying. For to obey is better than to sacrifice. Okay. You know what will be your sign? You will have an intolerance for dysfunction. You'll start to really grow emotional maturity. It's going to be quick. Then you'll see certain doors start to close. And see, we don't like this. Certain doors will start to close without warning. Where you could have gotten away with in a previous season, it won't. Okay. Outgrowing environments faster than expected. Starting to feel misplaced before feeling established. I don't have to elaborate on that. It often feels like pressure without panic, urgency without anxiety, discomfort without confusion. Acceleration pulls you, it stretches you, but it doesn't break you. When you are operating at an accelerated pace, it exposes misalignment faster. So what you could ignore in slower seasons now becomes impossible to tolerate. The grace to stay quiet, the grace to blend in, the grace to shrink, it runs out. And it has nothing to do with rebellion. You don't want to revolt. No. It has nothing to do with rebellion, but because of repositioning. Speed exposes what no longer fits. Lord, our time is almost come and gone. Speed exposes what no longer fits. Acceleration does not ask you if you're ready. You're in preparation as you move. You can't negotiate with your growth. Today, I want you, if you're feeling that tug, you're feeling that tension, and you need another shift, that is your sign that you've outgrown this place. I don't tell the people of God, I tell you pick up and leave and do all these other stuff. No. I'm saying when you become one with heaven, when you understand what it is that you carry, who it is that you are, what you need to get to your next level, certain things you won't tolerate anymore. I was speaking with a very good friend of mine, and she was just talking about something that bothered her. And I said, y'all don't judge me. I said, well, I feel like I blame you for this. I say, I blame you for allowing environments, being in environments that cannot help who you're becoming. And I said, for the place where you're going and the place you just came from, that environment is not conducive to growth if it pulls you back. That environment is not helpful. And mind you, it can be something as simple as a friend group. It can be something as what we would say as simple as the things you watch. It can be something as simple as the way you dress, the way you speak, the books you read. I say it's not conducive. It's not helpful. It's not aligning with where you're supposed to be. And that's why you're frustrated. That's why you're going through this emotional roller coaster, because I'm not there anymore, but I feel this thing pulling me back there. Not only that, but I'm not really where I'm supposed to be. So this environment should feed where I'm going. And it wasn't until we started to really dialogue and go back and forth about it, you now understand, listen, I have to love myself more than this. I have to love myself more than them. We don't want to get rid of people because they need me in their life. Y'all know the lies we tell ourselves. God has assigned them to me. All right. If you're feeling like you've outgrown things faster than you can explain, it's not restlessness. It's just acceleration. That's all it is. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs forth," or now it springs up. In other words, it is accelerated. Do you not perceive it? God says, I have to deal, and we dealt with this before, I have to deal with your perception. I preached from Ezekiel 37, and the Bible says that he said, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he took me out in the spirit, and he set me down, he stabilized me in a valley, of dry bones. We know the story, right? And what really stuck out to me was the fact that God says, Ezekiel, what do you see? See, God could have just placed Ezekiel in the valley, set him down and say, listen, what's before you is the state of Israel, right? They were a great army and they have fallen away. They have died. They're in this low place. God could have said that, but instead he wanted to challenge how Ezekiel perceives the things that he is showing you. So maybe if you're listening today, God could be dealing with your perception. The Bible talks about a woman, I can't remember the name, but when the prophet I feel like it was Elijah, right? But I stand to be corrected. When she said, I perceive that you are a holy man of God. It is how you interpret what isn't physical, how you interpret that which is spiritual. He said, can't you see I'm doing a new thing? Can't you see that you have outgrown this place? Can't you see it's springing up, it's accelerating, but your perception is off. The way you interpret is off. The way you understand, you are leaning to your own understanding and not acknowledging me in all your ways. I didn't come to preach to you. I'm just telling you, you got to stand on business. You have to be about it. Listen, 2026, I'm not doing it. I'm about that life. I am going in. And let that be a declaration. I'm standing on business. I am unsubscribing. Listen, I've outgrown this place, and I'm here to walk in everything that God has for me and more. Let that be your posture today. Stand 10 toes down. Let the devil know. Listen, acceleration doesn't mean you skipped steps. It means that you completed them. Standing on business in this season simply means you're agreeing with your speed of growth. Anyone who tries to keep you at that same level is resisting growth. They don't resist it because it's wrong. They resist it because it confronts their comfort. It challenges their familiarity. It breaks that bond, that trauma bond, that shared routine. See, they want to keep you every day. When we talk, we're talking about what they do last year, what they do the year before. It forces change. Sometimes people aren't mad at you because you've grown. They're afraid of being left behind. It hurts you because you are grieving a version of your life that felt safe. It was, it was constant. You're releasing an identity that it worked. You're stepping into uncharted, unknown territory. Growth, and I'm going to end with this, growth always involves loss, but not all loss is bad. Take this show, rewatch this show, make notes, because your growth is going to be so undeniable that there will be things and people and spaces and environments and even old mindsets that will try to come back to pull you from that place of acceleration. That's it for The Shift. Every Monday through Friday, same time, same place, favorite station with your favorite person. I want you, if there is nothing that you got from this show today, remember 2026, I am standing on business. Until next time, keep it locked and always loaded.